The freight elevator bell sounded beneath Marjorie's voice. Soft chime, low mechanical tremor before it. Then the ventilation stopped. The final word of her sentence struck a hard wall and returned toward the microphone. Marjorie's recorded voice remained gentle. I'm sitting beside Rosa's bed now. She finished most of her soup, and we're having a quiet afternoon. The bank's review tablet rested on a low laminate table inside a glass-walled consultation room off the lobby. My phone remained beside my notebook, screen dark. Marjorie sat across from me beneath fluorescent ceiling panels that made every surface look recently cleaned and never touched. Sonia occupied the plastic chair beside her. Becca sat on the other side with both knees angled toward the exit. The review officer watched the playback timer on her tablet. Through the glass, a muted financial literacy video played above the cue screen. The consultation room door remained unlocked. No one had asked Marjorie to stay. She stayed because she wanted the restrictions reconsidered. Leaving would not lift them. The recording continued. A cart rolled across concrete somewhere behind the microphone. Metal wheel. Small rattle. Distance increasing. Rosa's apartment had no freight elevator, no concrete corridor, no ventilation system capable of shutting down beneath a sentence. Marjorie lifted one hand. I want to name that Elise is presenting decontextualized material during a moment when I am already managing significant compassion fatigue. I said nothing. The review officer opened the bank upload audit, the shared folder activity export, and the 2 screenshots submitted to the case. Marjorie leaned forward. Before she could explain why the room inside her recording did not belong to Rosa, I need to take you back 3 days, to a black binder clip beneath my collarbone, to 9 hours of voices belonging to people I would never meet, and to the first time Marjorie asked me to remove a pause that should have remained in the record. At 7:08 on Monday morning, the left side of my headphones stopped producing sound. I turned my head toward the monitor. The audio returned, straightened again. Silence in the left ear. The cable had developed a break where it bent against my collar. Replacement headphones with the isolation level required for my work cost more than I could justify that week, so I attached the cable to my shirt with a black binder clip. The clip held the damaged section at the one angle that kept both channels open. It also prevented me from reaching naturally for paper. Each time I needed a document from the tray beside me, I turned my entire upper body. By noon, the clip had pressed a small rectangle beneath my collarbone. My job title was Quality Control Clerk. That meant another person produced the rough transcript, software marked possible speaker changes, and I listened to the original proceeding until the written record matched what had actually reached the microphones. Not what the attorney probably intended. Not what the witness might have meant. What could be heard. That morning's file came from a municipal hearing recorded inside a temporary council chamber. 3 microphones, 1 ventilation fan, metal chairs. A speaker at the rear of the room whose consonants reached the recorder after a short reflection from the wall. The rough transcript read, I received the notice before the inspection. I pressed the metal foot pedal beneath my desk. Audio moved backward 4 seconds. Released it. The witness spoke again. I did not receive the notice before the inspection. The word not was quiet, partly covered by a chair leg dragging across the floor. Remove it, and the sentence became cleaner. It also became the opposite sentence. I added the missing word. Marked the overlap. Returned to the previous timestamp. The foot pedal weighed almost 4 pounds. Cast metal. Scratched base. Right edge polished smooth from 28 years beneath Marion Cole's shoe. She had trained me before illness forced her out of court reporting. After she died, her son found the pedal inside a box of old cables and shorthand notebooks. He brought it to the office in a grocery bag. She said you would use it instead of displaying it. He was right. The rubber beneath the pedal warmed during long shifts. Old electrical dust remained trapped near the cord opening. On humid days, I could still smell the machine oil Marion used on everything with moving parts, whether it needed it or not. During my first month under her supervision, I reviewed a hearing with a missing phrase. The context made the likely words obvious. I typed them. Marion stopped the playback with the edge of her shoe. Did you hear that? No. Then why is it on the page? It fits the sentence. So would 6 other things. She deleted my guess. Placed 3 dots inside the uncertainty marker. If you did not hear it, do not improve it. Keep the gap honest. Marjorie hated honest gaps. At 9:26, she sent me an audio update labeled Rosa Monday Care Note. Her message read, "Please polish for sponsor archive. Remove the awkward breathing and dead space. Keep warmth." Gentle Hours required care updates for its public resource library. That was how Marjorie described them. Short recordings documenting what she called the invisible dignity of daily support. She spoke softly, paused before important nouns, allowed a little breath to remain after Rosa's name. The pauses looked thoughtful once Becca added music. The raw files were less graceful. Marjorie restarted sentences. Complained about traffic. Asked whether the logo light had changed color. Sometimes she left instructions for me inside the recording. Elise, remove that last part. Elise, tighten this. Elise, make the room feel calmer. I performed the edits without pay because she called them family contribution. I already handled Rosa's transportation calendar. Converted clinic instructions into large print. Scheduled grocery deliveries. Called the pharmacy when labels changed. Confirmed weekend assistance. Paid temporary care gaps when Marjorie said sponsor obligations had exhausted the media budget. My family treated care like an audio track they could lower without stopping. Marjorie appeared on camera. I kept the underlying signal running. At 10:03, Sonia called during my scheduled break. Rosa's transport service says they do not have Thursday. I confirmed Thursday last week. They say the authorization expired. I'll call. I'm with Marjorie at the clinic. Is Rosa there? No, Marjorie is filming. Then who is with Rosa? The morning aide. Until noon. You always say things like emergencies are already happening. The aide leaves in 2 hours. Sonia sighed. You know Marjorie has the foundation presentation coming. I know Rosa has an appointment. Why do you make every scheduling issue sound like a moral failure? I said I'll call. That tone is why Marjorie says you need stronger boundaries. The break timer on my screen showed 8 minutes remaining. I called transportation. The authorization had not expired. Marjorie's caregiver management account had changed Rosa's preferred provider during a demonstration for her channel. The original service no longer had permission to book automatically. I restored the request through the clinic coordinator. Thursday returned to the schedule. 6 minutes. No breakfast. Back to the hearing. At 11:47, Becca entered the shared project chat. She had uploaded a Gentle Hours video titled, Care Without Scorekeeping. Thumbnail, Marjorie beneath a custom fabric light fixture. Cream-colored shade. Soft gold interior. The camera angle made the studio look like a quiet residential sitting room. Caption beneath it, Care becomes transactional when we demand receipts for love. Becca tagged me. Invisible subtitle girl. Please fix line 2 before sponsor review. I corrected the subtitle timing. Did not answer the name. The fabric light fixture had cost more than my replacement headphones. I knew because Marjorie had asked me to organize the production invoices after telling Rosa's weekend provider that the care account needed a temporary pause. At 1:16, I received an email from the Accessible Legal Transcription Certification Board. Digital certificate attached. My score appeared beneath my name. I had completed the program 3 weeks earlier after studying at night for 11 months. Accessible formatting. Speaker identification for hearing impaired readers. Large print conventions. Audio uncertainty standards. The small presentation had taken place the previous Friday. Sonia promised to attend. She arrived 12 minutes early, carrying a wrapped notebook. When the coordinator asked guests to silence their phones, Sonia's screen lit. Marjorie. Sponsor live stream. Family visibility needed. Sonia stood before the first certificate had been presented. I'll come back. You'll miss it. Marjorie says the foundation wants a family voice. Then let her speak. She says it matters that I hold Rosa's photograph. I looked at the wrapped notebook in her hands. You came for me. I came for 12 minutes. Do not make me choose during your achievement. She left the notebook on the chair. At 4:08, the certification director called my name. No one sat beside me. Later, Marjorie posted a clip from the live stream. Sonia appeared behind her, holding Rosa's framed photograph against her chest. Marjorie said, "Real caregiving means showing up even when no one gives you a certificate." The audience reacted with hearts. Sonia shared the clip. She sent my congratulations in a private message after midnight. I opened the wrapped notebook the next morning. Blank pages. Cover embossed with, "Your voice matters." I stored it beneath Marion's foot pedal. At 2:42 on Monday afternoon, Rosa's weekend care provider called my personal number. We could not process the next assistance block. What date? Saturday and Sunday. What reason? The reserve authorization returned unavailable. Was the service request rejected? Pending funding confirmation. I opened the care calendar. Rosa needed 4 hours Saturday, 6 Sunday. Marjorie was scheduled to speak at a community foundation breakfast about preventing elder isolation. Sonia had agreed to appear during the family support segment. Becca was filming. Can you hold the time? Until tomorrow at noon. Do not cancel it yet. The provider lowered her voice. Elise, this is the second funding issue. I know. Is there another payer? I'll confirm. My break had ended. I returned to the proceeding, but the voices stopped separating cleanly. The hearing room remained understandable. My attention did not. At 3:07, I messaged Marjorie. Weekend assistance payment is unavailable. Please confirm the reserve status. Her response arrived 6 minutes later. I cannot engage with alarm-based framing while I'm preparing care resources for the community. The provider needs payment confirmation by tomorrow. Rosa will not be abandoned. Who is covering Saturday? Well, need to stop treating every care adjustment like evidence of neglect. Who is covering Saturday? You process the forms because that is how you contribute, Elise. I carry the emotional labor, so I decided where the care money could do the most healing. I read the sentence twice, then copied it into the care log exactly as written. No response. At 3:29, Sonia called. Marjorie says you accused her of stealing from Rosa. I asked who is covering Saturday. She says the money was moved into sustainable support. What support? The resource center. The studio? It is not just a studio. Does Rosa receive care there? You are attached to literal interpretations. Rosa needs an aide this weekend. Sonia's voice changed. The soft injury she used when a direct question approached someone she wanted to protect. After everything I did raising you, you are forcing me to choose between my only sister and my own daughter. I cannot survive being placed in the middle like this. You called me. Because you are frightening everyone. I asked about an assistance payment. You make people feel examined. The money is for Rosa. Marjorie is Rosa's daughter. So are you. Silence. Then Sonia said, I have to go. She ended the call before answering who would remain with Rosa. I covered the minimum emergency gap from my own account, not the full weekend. 4 hours Saturday. Enough to protect Rosa while I requested a continuity plan from the clinic's social worker. The payment left my checking balance below the amount required for new headphones. I tightened the binder clip. At 5:36, my shift ended. The rectangular mark beneath my collarbone had darkened. I carried Marion's foot pedal in my work bag because Marjorie had asked me to clean the Gentle Hours recording room that evening. She said a sponsor representative might visit, and Becca had left cables across the floor. The studio occupied part of a commercial storage facility 8 blocks from the bus line. Marjorie called it the Gentle Hours Caregiver Resource Center. The lease directory near the entrance called the building Riverline, media, and storage. A freight elevator stood beyond the loading corridor. Concrete floor. Painted block walls. Ventilation ducts exposed above the ceiling grid. The elevator emitted a low vibration before the doors moved. Then a two-tone bell. I noticed it because empty commercial spaces always announce themselves. Marjorie sat beneath the custom light fixture, recording a sponsor message. Her voice changed when I entered. Public warmth lowered half a step. Elise, thank you for coming, despite the tension you created earlier. Becca sat behind the camera. The subtitle, Ghost Arrives. I placed my work bag near the wall. Where do you want the cables? Start with the floor, Marjorie said. Then organize the audio index. Sponsors may ask how we document care consistency. She restarted the recording. Caregivers deserve rooms where their own nervous systems can soften. The freight elevator moved behind the wall. Low tremor. Bell! Becca stopped the camera. Again. Elevator. Marjorie exhaled. This building is hostile to tenderness. I coiled 2 cables. Moved a tripod. Collected empty teacups. A foam microphone windscreen fell from Marjorie's tote and rolled beneath my chair. Cheap black foam. Compressed on one side. I picked it up. The studio microphone remained connected to the monitoring tablet. Its screen displayed the Gentle Hours audio index. Not messages. Not photographs. The recording list Marjorie had asked me to organize. At the top, Rosa Monday care note. Raw. The file was already open in the monitoring window. I replaced the windscreen. My sleeve touched the playback control. The final section began. Marjorie's voice entered both headphone channels. I'm sitting beside Rosa's bed now. Low mechanical tremor beneath her. Two-tone freight elevator bell. Ventilation stopped. Concrete returned the word now. I removed the headphones. Looked toward the studio wall. The elevator moved again. Same tremor. Same interval. Same bell. Becca was adjusting camera settings. Marjorie stood near the fabric light fixture, reading sponsor notes. Neither watched me. I replayed 10 seconds. Not to accuse. To confirm I had heard what I thought I heard. Tremor. Bell. Ventilation shut down. Hard reflection. The file label said, Monday Bedside Update. The creation time matched the previous evening. Rosa had been in her apartment then. I knew because I had called her to read the new medication label. Her hallway was carpeted. Her radiator clicked twice during the call. No freight elevator. I opened the audio index already displayed on the tablet. 3 other bedside updates appeared beneath the first. Different dates. Same raw file category. Marjorie had assigned them to the shared editing workflow. I played only the beginning of the second. Rosa is resting near the window. Tremor. Bell. The ventilation cycle ended 3 seconds later. Third file. Different sentence. Same room. She had removed the words and left the room. I did not forward anything yet. I wrote the file names and creation times in the blank notebook from my certification ceremony. Marjorie approached behind me. What are you doing? Indexing the raw care files. She looked at the screen. Those need warmth consistency. They were recorded here? Her face remained relaxed. Some updates are reconstructed when direct recording would violate Rosa's dignity. Were you with her? You are asking a punitive question. I'm asking where the recording was made. Elise, caregiving is not a courtroom. No. Then stop treating every imperfect process like testimony. Becca laughed behind the camera. An invisible subtitle girl wants chain of custody. Marjorie touched my shoulder. Please do not export your professional rigidity into a sacred family space. The studio door opened. The freight elevator bell reached us from the loading corridor. Same pitch. Marjorie removed her hand. Finish cleaning. I did. Slowly. Cables first. Memory cards into labeled cases. Tripod legs folded. Audio index left open because Marjorie had told me to organize it. Before leaving, I played one genuine recording from Rosa's apartment, stored in my care notes. Rosa, speaking near the kitchen table. Radiator tick. Soft traffic. A neighbor's television, muted by carpet and plaster. No long concrete return. No ventilation collapse. No freight bell. 2 rooms. 2 different physical histories. At 7:18, Marjorie pulled me aside near the studio door. I need you emotionally available this week. For what? The foundation event. I'm arranging Rosa's weekend care. That is exactly the problem. You retreat into logistics when the family needs relational safety. Who is paying the provider? We are in a transition. From Rosa's reserve to your studio? Her eyes filled quickly. Not enough for tears to fall. Enough to make my question look cruel. You have no idea what it costs to remain compassionate in public. I looked at the custom light fixture above her. No. You think visibility is vanity because no one expects you to inspire anyone. The loading corridor ventilation restarted. Air pushed through the duct above us. Marjorie lowered her voice. I need you to clean the pauses in those updates before Thursday. I'll review the originals first. Why? To preserve what I receive. That sounds threatening. It is my ordinary workflow. Her expression hardened beneath the softness. I am setting a boundary around how my creative material is handled. Then do not assign it to me. She stepped back. You are dysregulated. I need to catch my bus. Outside, evening traffic had slowed. The first bus arrived full. I stood near the rear door with Marion's foot pedal pulling against the strap of my work bag. Every seat was occupied. A child behind me played a game producing the same 4 electronic notes every few seconds. Someone's grocery bag pressed against my knee. The heater blew warm air directly into my face. I held the overhead strap with my right hand. My phone vibrated inside my coat. Payment notice. I expected the weekend care receipt. Instead, the screen showed a financial institution I did not recognize. Personal credit line. Current balance, $39,800. First payment due. Borrower, Elise Navarro. The address beneath my name came from an old caregiver authorization form. The email belonged to the Gentle Hours project account. The contact number was Marjorie's media line. I could not sit, could not leave, could not call without the people beside me hearing every word. A passenger leaned close enough that turning the screen would reveal the balance. I locked it, opened it again. Same amount. $39,800. My name attached to a media operation I did not own. My identity listed as financial administrator. The bus stopped at a red light. I counted the interval. 1, 2, 3. The child's game repeated its notes. A grocery carton pressed harder against my knee as passengers shifted. The overhead strap's rubber pattern entered my palm. Next light. Count again. 1, 2, 3. Do not make a sound. Do not call Sonia. Do not call Marjorie while standing between strangers. Do not improve the record. The bus moved forward. Inside my work bag, Marion's foot pedal struck lightly against the metal water bottle with each turn. Heavy, scratched. Built to stop a recording at the exact place where the meaning changed. I tightened my hand around the strap. The pattern deepened. $39,800 sat beneath my identity. I did not yet know how much had left Rosa's reserve. I knew only that weekend care had failed, that her studio contained Rosa's supposed bedside recordings, and that someone had placed a personal line beneath my name using Gentle Hours contact information. One balance was visible. The missing care money was not. I would not combine them until the account records did. The bus passed my usual stop. I did not move toward the door. Not yet. I needed one more traffic light before my face would hold. At the next stop, 3 passengers stepped off. A seat opened near the rear door. I did not take it. Sitting would have changed the shape of my face. The people beside me would have looked down and seen the phone in my hands. The bus heater continued blowing against my forehead. 4 electronic notes repeated behind me. The grocery bag near my knee shifted away, leaving a damp patch against my work pants where a carton had pressed through the paper. I counted another traffic light. 42 seconds. Then 38. At the third, I moved toward the door. My palm remained closed around the rubber pattern even after I released the strap. When the bus stopped, I stepped onto a sidewalk 6 blocks beyond my apartment and stood beside a dark pharmacy window. The bus pulled away. Only then did I open my hand. Raised rectangles crossed the center of my palm. My phone still displayed the payment notice. The account page offered a service number. I called. An automated system asked for the final 4 digits of my identification number. I entered them. The system recognized me as the borrower. That frightened me more than an error message would have. A representative joined the call. I gave my name. The line balance. The account number shown on the notice. Then I said I had not opened it. She asked whether I had authorized anyone to apply on my behalf. No. Do you recognize the associated organization? Gentle Hours. Are you an owner or financial administrator? No. The application listed both. The contact email belonged to the Gentle Hours editing account. The telephone number was Marjorie's media line. The mailing address came from a caregiver form I had completed for Rosa almost 2 years earlier. The representative could not determine responsibility during the call. She opened an identity-based borrowing dispute and placed the line into review status. The first payment would not be treated as accepted while the dispute remained open. That did not remove the account. It did not correct my credit record. It created a reference number and a list of required documents. Identity statement, address history, any application records I possessed, evidence showing how the listed organization had obtained my information. I wrote the reference number inside the blank notebook from my certification ceremony. The page beneath it still carried the file names for Marjorie's recordings. Debt above, audio below. 2 parts of the same project, though I did not yet know how tightly they were connected. The representative asked whether I wanted the bank to contact the telephone number listed on the application. Yes. Do you control that number? No. Do you control the associated email? I can access it for editing work. I do not own it. She recorded the distinction. Before ending the call, she said, "Do not alter or delete material associated with the application." I won't. The pharmacy window reflected me holding the phone with Marion's foot pedal pulling down one side of my work bag. A reviewer could not insert a missing sentence because the speaker probably meant it. A family could not insert consent because the responsible daughter probably would have helped. For 5 years, every unfinished need had arrived in my hands like a damaged transcript. A clinic gave Rosa instructions too small to read. I enlarged them. Transportation changed a route. I reconstructed the schedule. Marjorie sent a rough recording full of restarts and irritation. I removed the friction and delivered a calm voice to Becca. Sonia became frightened. I translated the fear into reassurance. Weekend care ran short. I supplied the missing hours. No one asked whether I wanted authorship over the complete record. They only expected me to repair whatever prevented the next person from hearing a coherent story. Marjorie called every cost invisible until she needed my name beneath it. Now the care channel listed me as financial administrator. The credit line treated my identity as the clean transcript below her performance. She had not asked me to open the account because she assumed my likely assistance could be substituted for actual permission. That was the family rule. If Elise would probably fix it later, Elise could be written into the beginning. My name had become another missing phrase they felt entitled to supply. I closed the notebook, then walked home. Marjorie called before I reached my building. I let the first call end. The second followed immediately. Then Sonia. Then Marjorie again. I answered on the 4th attempt. "Elise," Marjorie said, "the bank contacted my media number with a deeply alarming accusation. They contacted the number listed on a credit application under my name. Her pause lasted exactly long enough to appear thoughtful. I need you to recognize that your nervous system is seeking control because you feel excluded from visible caregiving. Did you open a line using my identity? I will not participate in an interrogation. $39,800. You are reducing an integrated care initiative to an account balance. Is the line yours? The Resource Center required flexible funding. Under my name. You process the forms because that is how you contribute, Elise. I carried the emotional labor, so I decided where the care money could do the most healing. You already sent that sentence because you did not receive it. I received the payment notice. Her breathing changed. Not panic. Preparation. What you are doing is financially aggressive. I disputed an account I did not open. You have placed a caregiver organization under threat because you are attached to ownership. My name is not a shared resource. That kind of language makes collaboration unsafe. Did you use Rosa's reserve for the studio? I reallocated funds towards sustainable care infrastructure. How much? I cannot discuss numbers while you are dysregulated. The weekend provider could not process payment. Temporary restriction. Who is staying with Rosa? I told you she would not be abandoned. That is not a schedule. Marjorie lowered her voice. I need you to stop using logistics as a weapon against people performing emotional labor. I need Saturday and Sunday covered. I have a foundation event. So does Sonia. She is supporting the family's future access to community resources. Rosa needs someone inside her apartment this weekend. You always center the immediate. She eats in the immediate. The line became quiet. Then Marjorie said, I am choosing not to continue this conversation until you can approach me without punishment energy. She ended the call. Sonia's call arrived less than a minute later. What did you say to her? I asked about the credit line. She is crying. Did she open it? She says the Resource Center benefits all of us. It is under my name. Marjorie says you were always supposed to manage the financial side. I was not. You handled forms. For Rosa. You know how difficult public caregiving has been for your aunt. She rented a studio. It is a resource center. Rosa cannot receive weekend care there. Sonia inhaled sharply. After everything I did raising you, you are forcing me to choose between my only sister and my own daughter. I cannot survive being placed in the middle like this. You receive information from both sides. That is not the same as being trapped. How can you say that to your mother? Did you know about the line? No. Did you know the reserve payment failed? Marjorie said the account was being reorganized. Did you receive money from it? The question stopped her. Not long. Half a breath. Then, injury. You are examining me now. I asked whether Rosa's money reached you. I help with family coordination. How much? I do not keep a ledger against my own mother. Rosa is your mother, and you are my daughter. The words formed a closed circle. Any question about Rosa's money became evidence that I had failed Sonia. I am arranging temporary care, I said. I will speak to Rosa tomorrow. You cannot frighten her with this. I will ask what she wants. She is vulnerable. She can still decide who reviews her account. Marjorie is the account manager. That does not make the money hers. Sonia's voice went thin. You are tearing apart the only support system I may have when I am old. There it was. Not Rosa's care, Sonia's future. Marjorie's network had become a promise that no one would leave Sonia alone. Every question threatened that promise. I am not your future care plan, I said. She began crying. Not loudly. Enough to turn the sentence into cruelty. I ended the call after telling her I would contact the clinic's social worker. At 7:06 the next morning, I called Rosa. She answered on the fourth ring. A spoon struck a ceramic bowl near the receiver. Did I wake you? No, oatmeal. Is Marjorie there? She left a message. Is Sonia there? No. I asked whether her weekend aid had been confirmed. Rosa thought so. then admitted Marjorie had said the schedule might change because the family was investing in a better care system. Do you want the current provider to continue? Yes. Do you want me to ask the bank what happened to the reserve? A radiator clicked behind her. One, then another. Rosa did not answer immediately. Not confusion. Consideration. I thought you already knew. I do not control the account. Marjorie says you process everything. I process appointments and instructions. She manages the reserve. Is the money gone? I know one care payment failed. I need permission to ask about the rest. Rosa set down the spoon. Will they move me? Reviewing the account does not move you. Marjorie said if the money stops, I may need a shared room. I am arranging temporary help before I open the reserve dispute. Can she cancel Saturday? She can interfere with the payment. I am working on another method. Rosa breathed slowly into the phone. I want to stay here. I know. Then look. No hesitation after that. I explained that the bank would require written authorization. The clinic's social worker could witness it during Rosa's afternoon appointment. Rosa said yes. Not because I coached her. Because she wanted to know why money reserved for remaining at home could no longer pay the person helping her remain there. At 8:22, the clinic social worker returned my call. I described only the continuity problem. A scheduled home care block could not process. The account manager was disputing the need for review. Rosa wanted the existing provider to continue. The social worker did not investigate the money. She arranged practical steps. The provider agreed to hold the weekend hours under the already approved service plan until Friday afternoon. A local respite program had 4 emergency hours available Sunday. The bank's care account department could authorize verified essential services during review if the provider submitted invoices directly. I paid only the Saturday gap I had already committed to. No open-ended promise. No attempt to become the new account. At Rosa's appointment, the social worker read the limited authorization aloud. It allowed me to submit a reserve concern, receive transaction information relevant to care continuity, provide supporting documents, communicate with the bank about verified home care payments. It did not allow me to withdraw funds, change beneficiaries, control Rosa's account, sign in her place. Rosa signed with her own pen. The social worker witnessed it. I scanned the form through the clinic's ordinary document station and saved the confirmation. Before I left, Rosa touched the binder clip attached to my shirt. What is that? Headphone repair. Does it work? Mostly, she smiled. You always make mostly last. The sentence hurt more than criticism would have. Mostly had become everyone's preferred condition for me. Mostly paid. Mostly rested. Mostly safe. Mostly willing. I bent the clip away from my collarbone. The pressure mark remained. At work that afternoon, I created a comparison log. Not a conclusion. A listening table. File 1. Rosa Monday. Care note. Raw. Claimed location. Rosa's apartment. Observed features. Mechanical vibration beginning 1.8 seconds before a 2-tone bell. Ventilation shut down at 0014. Hard reflection after final consonants. Distant cartwheel. File 2. Rosa Thursday rest update. Raw. Same bell. Same vibration interval. Ventilation shut down within 1 second of the first file's cycle length. Hard reflection. File 3. Rosa evening check-in. Raw. Same room response. Same mechanical sequence. Different script. Then genuine comparison. A voice memo I had recorded with Rosa's permission while converting medication instructions into large print. Radiator tick. Kitchen clock. Soft traffic behind insulated glass. A neighbor's television reaching the microphone through carpeted hallway and plaster. Short reflections. No commercial ventilation cycle. No elevator bell. I created another comparison using Marjorie's sponsor recordings from the studio. The same 2-tone chime appeared in 2 outtakes. Same mechanical tremor. Same hard wall. One sponsor file included Becca saying, "Wait for the elevator." The acoustic pattern suggested the alleged bedside updates were recorded in the same commercial environment as the sponsor material. It did not identify the precise building alone. The studio lease and facility records would have to support location. I wrote, "Sound pattern is consistent with studio storage environment and inconsistent with observed apartment characteristics." Not, "Audio proves fraud." Not, "Marjorie was never at Rose's apartment." Proof had to remain the size of the source. At 5:41, the care provider confirmed the Saturday hours. The clinic respite program confirmed Sunday. Verified invoices would be sent directly through the temporary bank process if the reserve restriction began. Only after those confirmations did I open the care account concern. The bank portal asked for Rose's authorization. I uploaded it. Asked which transactions had caused the care shortage. Requested restriction of non-essential withdrawals while verified services continued. The portal created a second reference number, one for my identity, one for Rose's reserve. Separate harms. Connected source. At 6:18, Marjorie messaged me. "Studio needs cleaning tonight. Foundation representative tomorrow. Please organize raw index and remove duplicated takes." The request was ordinary within the unpaid work she had assigned me for years. She still believed the dispute was emotional noise that I would absorb after completing her tasks. I went, not to search, to perform the same editing cleanup she had specifically requested, while preserving what she had placed inside the workflow. The tablet rested beside the ring light when I arrived. Unlocked. Audio index already displayed. Becca was in the equipment closet searching for a missing battery. Marjorie stood in the hallway speaking to a sponsor. I cleaned T-rings from the low table, coiled cables, collected 2 memory card cases. The screen remained awake. The raw index showed 6 files assigned to the shared editing address I had always used. I did not open private messages, did not leave the audio application, did not search her storage. The first 3 files were the bedside updates I had already noted. 3 additional recordings appeared beneath them, one labeled Foundation Care Testimonial, Full Take. Another, Sonia Family Support, Raw. The last, Becca, Edit Notes, Continuous. I selected only the 6 files displayed in the assigned raw index. Used the existing share command. Recipient, the Gentle Hours project editing address Marjorie had required me to use. The tablet displayed the file names, sizes, and sending status. I photographed the screen only after the send completed, preserving the visible index and transfer confirmation. No unrelated material appeared in the frame. At home, the project inbox showed the 6 original files. Original names, creation times, file sizes, sender device, receipt timestamp. I downloaded them into a folder labeled Originals. Do not edit. Then copied that folder to a second ordinary storage device. Listening copies went into a separate directory. I did not rename the evidence files, did not trim silence, did not normalize volume, did not remove Marjorie's complaints between takes. Marion's pedals sat beneath my desk. I opened the first file. 10-second intervals. Pause. Replay. Write only what could be heard. The 3 bedside files carried the same room. The sponsor testimonial began with Marjorie describing caregiver dignity. Behind her, freight elevator, ventilation, concrete. Halfway through, Becca stopped the recording and complained that Sonia had missed a cue. Marjorie answered off script. She will do it again. Sonia will do anything if you imply she might be alone later. Becca laughed. She was shaken before the live stream. That is why she is useful. The room changed inside Marjorie's voice. Public warmth gone. No careful pauses. She is terrified enough to call dependence love. Promise future care, and she will defend every transfer. I removed my foot from the pedal. The recording continued for 2 seconds. A chair moved. Becca asked whether Sonia knew which account funded the monthly household support. Marjorie answered, "She knows enough not to ask." I stopped playback. Not because the file had ended. Because my hand had begun tightening around the binder clip. I released it from my shirt. The cable slipped. Left headphone channel disappeared. For a moment, Marjorie's voice came through only my right ear. I adjusted the connector. Both channels returned. The raw recording still had 27 minutes remaining. I pressed Marian's pedal, moved backward 5 seconds, then replayed the sentence exactly. She is terrified enough to call dependence love. No improvement. No interpretation. The record did not need me to supply cruelty. Marjorie had spoken it clearly. I marked the timestamp, then continued listening. The recording continued after Becca left the microphone area. A cabinet door opened. Plastic cases shifted. Marjorie moved farther from the microphone, but the concrete room returned enough of her voice to keep the words intact. Becca asked, "Do you want me to remove the part about Sonia?" "From which file?" "The family support take. Remove anything that makes her sound frightened." She was frightened. That is not the sponsor story. A zipper closed. Becca returned, closer to the microphone. "What happens if the bank asks for originals?" "They will not. Elise keeps everything." "Elise keeps what she is assigned. That is why you shorten the care files before they reach her." My foot remained above Marian's pedal. I did not press it. Becca's voice lowered. "You said she was doing the final cleanup. She cleans captions. She does not understand strategy." Becca laughed. "Invisible subtitle girl." Marjorie laughed with her, not the soft laugh from her videos. Shorter, dry. Useful people should remain useful. A chair leg moved across concrete. The freight elevator began its low mechanical tremor somewhere beyond the studio wall. Becca said, "I still need the last 2 editing payments." "You will receive them after the foundation event." "I want them before." "Do not become transactional." "I have the raw files." The elevator bell sounded. Ventilation stopped. Inside the sudden quiet, Becca's next sentence reached the microphone without obstruction. "I kept copies because you keep changing what you told me to remove." Marjorie's voice hardened. "That would be a serious boundary violation. So is not paying me. If there is ever a review, the edits were your technical decisions." Silence. Not an edited pause. A real one. Becca said, "You gave me time codes. I gave you creative direction. You told me to make the apartment updates sound continuous. I told you to protect Rosa's dignity. You told me to remove the elevator." The ventilation restarted. Air entered the duct with a broad, rushing sound. Marjorie waited for it to settle, then said, "If the files become a problem, you are the editor. You are the person with the software. I am the caregiver speaking from memory." Becca's breathing moved closer to the microphone. "You would put that on me?" "I would tell the truth about roles. You recorded them here. I recorded compassionate summaries. You labeled them bedside updates, because that is the care context." Becca did not answer. A phone vibrated against the table. Marjorie read something, then said, "Sonia received her household support again. She needs to stop asking whether it came from the reserve." "How much are you giving her?" $400. "Every month?" "She remains available. She does not help with editing. She helps with loyalty." Marjorie's voice softened again. Not because she felt tenderness, because she had returned to the tone that allowed contempt to sound clinical. "Sonia is terrified enough to call dependence love. That makes her predictable. Becca is a cheap mouth with editing software. That makes her replaceable." No one spoke for 6 seconds. Then Marjorie added, "If the account review becomes serious, Sonia will defend the family. Becca will absorb the editing questions. Elise will process the paperwork required to resolve it." The file continued for another 11 minutes. Equipment inventory. Conference badges. Sponsor call times. No additional sentence changed the structure. I listened to the end, did not extract only the cruel sections, did not rename the file, did not make a smaller version for dramatic playback. I created a listening index beside the original. Timestamp, speaker, audible words, background sound, uncertainty where a phrase could not be confirmed. At 1842, Becca said she kept raw copies. At 00-1931, Marjorie stated that editing questions would be assigned to Becca. At 02106, she described Sonia's monthly payment. At 002148, she described Sonia and Becca by the uses she believed each one served. At 002237, she said I would process the paperwork required to resolve the review. No interpretation needed. She had written the ending before knowing I possessed the beginning. At 1:14 in the morning, I uploaded the 6 original files to the Identity Dispute portal. The bank's upload form required a description for each item. I kept the descriptions narrow. 3 files labeled as care updates contained repeated commercial building sounds inconsistent with Rosa's apartment. 1 sponsor file contained discussion of editing instructions. 1 family support file contained statements about account payments. 1 continuous studio file contained discussion of who would be assigned responsibility if the recordings were questioned. I uploaded original files, original file names, file sizes, shared project receipt timestamps, the transfer confirmation image from the displayed tablet index, my listening log. I did not upload edited samples, did not increase volume, did not isolate the elevator bell. The bank could play the originals. For Rosa's reserve review, I uploaded the same recordings only where they related to the stated care visits and account purpose. 2 disputes, 2 explanations, 1 set of source files. The identity review concerned why Gentle Hours used my name and what materials supported the line. The reserve review concerned whether withdrawals described as care expenses matched actual care activity. At 1:32, the portal showed files received. No conclusion. No immediate restriction change. I closed the laptop. Marion's foot pedal remained beneath my desk. The right edge had warmed under my shoe. I placed the binder clip beside it. Without the clip, the headphone cable lost the left channel again. I went to sleep with the silence entering and leaving one ear whenever I moved. At 7:46 the next morning, the bank sent a request through Rosa's reserve case. The review team needed transaction records for the disputed period, verified provider invoices, Rosa's limited authorization, any care update materials used to support withdrawals. The authorization was already accepted. The bank released a limited transaction summary through the case portal. Only entries connected to the questioned reserve use. No unrelated personal purchases. No full account control. The first transfer left Rosa's reserve 11 months earlier. Resource Center Rental. The recipient was Riverline Media and Storage, the same building named on the directory outside Marjorie's studio. Monthly amount repeated. Then, caregiver education production, camera retailer, lighting supplier, furniture rental, conference venue deposit, badge printer, set storage charges, a custom textile company, the fabric light fixture. The payments did not show whether every purchase had been personally selected by Marjorie. They showed where Rosa's reserve had gone. I entered each transaction into a table. Date, amount, description, recipient, known connection. Unknowns remained unknown. A payment to Riverline supported the existence of the studio rental. It did not prove which audio had been recorded there. A camera purchase supported production spending. It did not prove the camera was used for false care updates. The combined withdrawals reached $31,600, exactly the amount missing from the reserve. 4 smaller transfers appeared each month. $400. Recipient, Sonia Navarro. Description, family coordination support. The record proved Sonia received the money. It did not prove she understood the source. Becca's editing payments came from a separate Gentle Hours media account, funded partly by reserve transfers. The bank summary showed the outgoing reserve transfer. The project invoices in the shared editing folder showed Becca's fees. Together, they established payment flow. They did not establish that Becca knew Rosa's protected account funded the media balance. I marked that limit in the table. At 9:08, I called Riverline's public management office. I am verifying building characteristics connected to audio submitted in a financial review. I am not requesting tenant access or private lease terms. The manager asked which information I needed. Does the media and storage wing contain a freight elevator? Yes. Does the recording corridor use central ventilation? Yes. Are the studio partitions built against concrete or masonry surfaces? Painted concrete block in most units. Can you confirm those general features in writing? She would not identify a tenant. I did not ask her to. She sent a standard facility information sheet. Freight elevator serving the loading and media corridor. Central mechanical ventilation. Concrete block interior construction. The sheet came from the facility's public leasing materials. No statement that Marjorie had recorded a particular file there. The Riverline payment records and Gentle Hours project invoices established that Marjorie rented the studio. The facility sheet established the room characteristics. The audio established the repeated sounds. Each source carried one section of the bridge. At 9:47, I called Rosa's property manager. Rosa joined by telephone and confirmed permission for the manager to answer limited questions about the building. No freight elevator. Passenger elevator near the front entrance. Single chime with no loading warning tone. Carpeted residential hallways. Radiator heat inside Rosa's unit. No central ventilation cycle serving the apartment. The manager sent a building features confirmation through the care review portal after Rosa approved the request. Again, no claim about where the recordings were made. Only what could and could not exist inside Rosa's building. At 10:26, the identity dispute portal showed a new activity line. Review team accessed submitted audio. 6 download entries followed. Each displayed profile, file size, download time, reviewer role. The earliest occurred at 10:18, the latest at 10:24. I saved the audit page as a PDF and printed one copy. Neutral reviewers now possessed the originals. Not my listening copies. Not a summary. The same files that entered the shared project address from Marjorie's displayed tablet. At 10:41, Marjorie called. I did not answer. Her message arrived. The bank is misinterpreting creative materials because you uploaded files outside their healing context. I forwarded it into the case correspondence without comment. Another message. You are not authorized to distribute Gentle Hours intellectual property. The files had been assigned through the shared editing workflow and submitted because they supported an account opened under my identity and withdrawals from Rosa's reserve. I did not debate that by text. The bank could determine what it would accept. At 10:53, the shared project folder changed. 3 replacement files appeared under the same care update titles. Smaller sizes. Later upload timestamps. The original Monday file measured 28 megabytes. The replacement measured 6. Thursday. 31 reduced to 7. Evening. 26 reduced to 5. The replacement recordings began after the elevator sounds and ended before the studio conversation. No raw setup. No room transition. No continuous background. The activity history identified Marjorie's account as the uploader. I captured a screenshot showing the original and replacement sizes, timestamps, file names, and uploader. At 11:02, the original entries disappeared from active shared view. The activity log recorded Marjorie's account removing them. I captured a second screenshot and exported the activity report. The bank's preserved copies remained unchanged because its reviewers had already downloaded the originals between 10:18 and 10:24. My project inbox receipts original downloads, and transfer confirmation image also remained. Removing the files from shared view changed what collaborators could see. It did not reach the copies already inside the bank's review workspace. At 11:11, she called Becca. I knew because Becca added me to a project call without warning. Marjorie's voice entered first. Tell Elise the replacements are the proper care records. Becca said, Why am I telling her? Because you produced them. You gave me the time codes. I gave you a quality standard. You told me to cut every place the elevator came through. Marjorie became quiet, then said, This conversation is not emotionally safe. Becca laughed once. You are trying to leave the edits on me. I am naming your role. You said no one would see the raw files. Elise violated process. Elise always keeps originals. That is why you were responsible for preparing clean versions before she received them. You sent her the tablet index. I left an editing tool in an editing room. Becca's voice sharpened. You called me replaceable. Marjorie stopped breathing for a moment. Not visibly, only a gap in the call. Becca had heard part of the continuous file or learned that it existed. Marjorie asked, What did Elise send you? Nothing. Then do not repeat words you cannot source. Becca ended the call. At 11:36, Sonia called. Why did the bank ask about my monthly support? Because it came from Rose's reserve. Marjorie said it came from outreach money. The transaction summary identifies the reserve. I used it for groceries. I did not say what you bought. You are making me sound like I stole from my mother. I said you received $400 monthly. For being available? Were you available for Rose's weekend care? I had sponsor obligations. Then what did the payment cover? Sonia's breath became uneven. You are enjoying making everyone explain themselves. No. You always wanted proof that Marjorie looked down on you. I did not know the recording existed. What recording? I stopped. The bank had the file. Sonia had not heard it yet. I was not going to play her sister's private contempt over the phone while she stood somewhere alone. The review officer may ask you about Marjorie's statements, I said. What statements? You should hear them in the complete context. From you? From the original file. Sonia's voice lowered. You are forcing an elderly mother to choose between daughters. Rosa authorized the review. I meant me. You are not elderly. I will be. That was the center of every defense. A future version of Sonia, alone and frightened, standing behind Marjorie's present choices. You can plan for aging without using Rosa's reserve, I said. She was building a network. She was building a studio. Sonia ended the call. At 6:22 that evening, I remained in the office after the transcription team left. Jerome Darnell stopped his floor machine outside quality control. When the motor wound down, the building's real room tone returned. You look like you've been listening to trouble, he said. I have. He placed a wet floor sign where anyone entering the corridor could see it before touching the machine handle again. Money can pay for an hour of help, he said. Loyalty is what keeps a person from creating the emergency just to make your hour necessary. If someone keeps the crisis alive so you will stay available, that is not care. That is a bill they keep writing in your name. Only after the warning stood in place did he restart the motor. No advice about Marjorie. No request to hear the files, just responsibility placed before noise. At 7:04, the bank review officer sent 3 notices. The identity case remained open. The care reserve withdrawals remained restricted to verified essential care payments. The original audio files had been preserved in the review workspace. Then, in-person review requested. Marjorie had challenged the restrictions and requested release of the remaining reserve balance. She also claimed I had manipulated project recordings through my transcription employment. The bank required direct statements from Marjorie, Elise, Sonia, concerning monthly payments and account understanding, Becca, concerning editing instructions and file versions. Rosa was not required to attend. Her limited authorization and direct bank interview were sufficient. The clinic respite program confirmed coverage for the appointment day. Rosa would remain in her apartment. No fluorescent lobby. No family performance. At 7:19, Marjorie sent a group message. Tomorrow's meeting should focus on restoring trust, not punishing imperfect caregivers. Becca responded, I want the bank to show the raw file history. Sonia wrote, I will not be attacked by either of you. Marjorie added, Elise, please bring the proper final recordings rather than unfinished creative material. I looked at the audit page. The bank had downloaded the originals at 10:18. Marjorie's replacements appeared at 10:53. The timeline did not need me to argue. I replied only, The bank already has the submitted files. Marjorie called immediately. I did not answer. At 8:03, she sent another message. Come to the studio before the appointment. I need help preparing my statement and regulating before I face this level of hostility. The Trojan horse remained open. She still believed that after the account dispute, the recordings, the deleted versions, and the private contempt, I would arrive to clean the emotional room around her. I placed Marion's foot pedal inside my work bag. Not because I needed it at the bank. The review officer controlled the playback. I carried it to remember what Marion had taught me. Do not supply what the speaker failed to say. Do not improve the record. Do not become the missing sentence. Marjorie opened the studio door at 7:12 the next morning, wearing the same cream jacket she used for foundation appearances. No greeting. She looked at my work bag. You brought the pedal. Yes. Good. I need the statement timed so it does not sound defensive. The freight elevator moved behind the wall. Low trimmer. Two-tone bell. Marjorie waited for the sound to finish before stepping aside. The custom fabric light fixture glowed above the recording chair. Becca had positioned a small camera in front of the Gentle Hours logo wall, though the bank had not requested a video statement. A ring light stood near the tablet. The raw file index was no longer open. The screen displayed a document titled Care Review, Context Statement. Marjorie pointed toward the chair beside the editing desk. I drafted something last night. It needs your accuracy. Not truth. Accuracy. The kind she believed meant cleaner pauses and softer nouns. I sat. Marion's foot pedal went beneath the desk. The weight settled against the floor. Marjorie remained standing behind me. I read the first paragraph. Gentle Hours has always operated from a trauma-informed understanding that elder care cannot be reduced to literal location, individual receipts, or rigid ownership language. I looked at the screen. What do you want changed? Anything that sounds too conceptual. Literal location will raise a question. Why? The care updates were labeled as bedside recordings. They were relational summaries. The file names say Bedside. Then clarify that language evolves. I inserted no clarification. Marjorie leaned over my shoulder. You are not editing. I am identifying the problem. I need support, not another audit. Becca adjusted the camera lens from across the room. She wants you to make the bank sound cruel for expecting the files to mean what they say. Marjorie straightened. That is not helpful. Becca kept her eye on the camera display. Neither was calling me replaceable. I never used that word in the meaning you assigned to it. It is in the recording. It was private processing. You said I would absorb the editing questions. Because you edited. You gave me time codes. And you exercised technical judgment. Becca looked at me. Did you upload my edit messages? Only files and records relevant to the 2 reviews. That is not an answer. The bank has the shared drive history. Her mouth tightened. She had come to the studio because Marjorie told her they needed a unified statement. She had brought a folder of printed payment invoices, not loyalty. Documentation. Marjorie moved between us. This is exactly the fragmentation Elise creates. She turns relationships into defensive evidence. I read the next paragraph on the screen. It described the $31,600 as a temporary allocation towards scalable support infrastructure. No mention of Rosa's failed weekend care payment. No mention of studio rent. No mention of the custom fixture above us. Where is the care continuity section? I asked. Marjorie folded her arms. The bank already has provider invoices. The statement says no care was interrupted. It was not. The Saturday block required emergency coverage. You covered it. After the reserve could not process, which proves the family system functioned. I removed my hands from the keyboard. No, it proves Rosa needed care before the account review finished. Marjorie's face softened. Elise, I need you to notice how quickly you become prosecutorial when someone asks for compassion. Becca made a small sound behind the camera. Not quite laughter. Marjorie turned. You do not have to stay if you are going to destabilize the preparation. I have to attend the review. You can meet us there. I want a copy of whatever you are calling my statement. It is not your statement. You listed me as editor. Marjorie looked at the document. The footer read, prepared with administrative support from Elise Navarro. I had not seen that line until Becca pointed. I deleted my name. Marjorie reached for the tablet. Put that back. I did not prepare this. You are editing it now. I identified 2 problems. I did not author it. Your rigidity is escalating. My name is not a formatting element. Becca lowered the camera. Welcome to the project. Marjorie stared at her. Do you want me to tell the bank you acted independently? Becca lifted the printed folder. I brought your messages. The studio became quiet enough for the loading corridor to enter through the wall. A cartwheel. One uneven bearing. Metal rattling every rotation. Marjorie's expression changed. Only around the eyes. You are threatening a caregiver before a financial review. I am protecting my work. You altered care files. You told me to. I told you to remove distractions. You gave exact cuts. For dignity. You told me to start after the elevator and end before the room changed. Marjorie looked toward me. This is what happens when people without relational training interpret creative direction literally. I closed the statement. No save. No deletion. The document remained where it had been. What do you need me to do before the appointment? I asked. Becca turned toward me. You are still helping her? I asked what task she assigned. Marjorie recovered quickly. Export the conference captions. Check the sponsor video for visible transaction references. Organize the final care files into one folder. The bank already has the originals. I did not ask you to touch the originals. No. Then do the work you were asked to do. I opened the conference caption file, corrected 3 timing errors, 1 sponsor name, a missing word. Did not open the replacement care recordings. Did not touch the shared drive history. Marjorie watched me work for 6 minutes before her breathing slowed. The familiar pattern had returned. She issued tasks. I completed narrow tasks. The room felt organized again. That was what obedience had always provided her. Not agreement. Predictability. At 7:43, Sonia arrived carrying 2 coffee cups and a paper bag. She placed 1 cup beside Marjorie. None beside me. I brought plain bagels, she said. No one should go into this meeting with low blood sugar. Becca looked at the bag. Did Rosa's reserve buy breakfast too? Sonia stopped. Marjorie stepped toward her. Do not engage with that. Sonia looked at Becca. The $400 was for groceries and transportation. For Rosa? For being available. You were not available last weekend. I had committed to the foundation event. Becca set down her invoice folder. So the reserve paid you to be available, while sponsor work made you unavailable. Sonia's face reddened. You edited false care updates. I edited what Marjorie gave me. You knew the recordings were not from the apartment. I knew she re-recorded some summaries. You cut out the elevator because she told me the building noise made the clips unusable. You helped her make them sound like Rosa's room. I made them sound clean. Marjorie raised both hands. This adversarial framing is not safe for any of us. Sonia turned toward her. Did the payments come from Mother's Reserve? They came through the care infrastructure budget. That is not what the bank statement says. The account categories are not nuanced. You told me it was outreach money. It supported family coordination. You said the sponsors covered it. The funding streams overlapped. Becca laughed once. Now money has room tone. Marjorie's voice became sharp. Enough. The word struck the studio wall and returned. Not softly. No pause. No compassion language. Just command. Sonia looked at her coffee. Becca looked at the camera. I continued checking caption timing. One line entered 2 frames too early. I moved it. The work did not require me to decide which frightened person deserved rescue from the other. At 8:02, my phone displayed a message from Rosa's clinic social worker. Respite provider arrived. Service window confirmed. Verified care invoice submitted through the bank's interim process. I opened the secure confirmation. Rosa had breakfast delivery, medication reminder, 4 hours of in-home support, transportation coverage held for the next clinic visit. No one in the bank lobby would be able to use her immediate safety as leverage. I called Rosa from the studio hallway. The respite worker answered first and transferred the phone. Rosa sounded awake. A radio played softly near her kitchen. Are you at the bank? She asked. Not yet. Is Marjorie there? Yes. Is she upset? Yes. Is Sonia? Yes. Becca? Yes. Rosa paused. Are you? I'm listening. The radiator clicked behind her. Familiar. Near. You do not have to bring me there, she said. You are not coming. Good. The bank has your authorization. I remember. The care worker is staying until noon. She made toast too dark. Tell her. I did. That mattered. Rosa remained capable of complaining about toast while 3 younger women prepared to argue over the account meant to keep her at home. Ordinary life continuing outside the performance. Do you want me to ask for anything else? I said. My money to pay for my care. That is the review. And tell Sonia I did not raise her to be afraid of being old. I will not speak for you unless the bank asks. Rosa made a dissatisfied sound, then said, That is probably right. We ended the call. When I returned to the studio, Sonia was reading the context statement. She looked at the footer. Where is Elise's name? I removed it, I said. Marjorie touched the edge of the tablet. She withdrew administrative support during a vulnerable moment. I did not write the statement. Sonia looked at me. You could still help us explain. The bank has the files. Files do not explain relationships. No. You know Marjorie did not mean to hurt Mother. I know what she recorded. That is not the same. It is what the review concerns. Sonia placed the tablet down. You always choose the sentence over the person. I choose not to replace one with the other. Her face folded inward. For a moment, she looked older than she had the day before. Not elderly. Tired from holding a promise that had begun failing under direct questions. What happens to me if Gentle Hours disappears? She asked. I don't know. Marjorie said there would be a network. You can build care plans that do not depend on her channel. With who? A social worker. Community programs, insurance, paid providers, family members who consent. That sounds cold. It sounds documented. Marjorie stepped between us. This is not the moment to dismantle Sonia's emotional safety. Sonia looked at her sister. Did you call me predictable? Marjorie froze. Only for a second. Elise played you something? No. Then why are you using that word? The bank asked whether I knew why you paid me. That is not the same question. Did you say I would defend anything if you promised future care? Marjorie pressed her fingertips to her throat. This is exactly why private caregiver processing should not be weaponized. Sonia's eyes filled. That means yes. It means exhausted people speak imperfectly. You laughed. You have no context. Then give me the context. The context is years of carrying everyone. You did not carry Mother last weekend. Marjorie turned away. Low blood sugar is affecting this conversation. She opened the paper bag. No one took a bagel. At 8:24, Becca emailed the bank review officer a folder of messages. She did it from her own phone in front of us. Marjorie watched the progress bar. What did you send? Editing directions. You are violating project confidentiality. I removed sponsor contracts and unrelated files. What exactly? Time codes, your instructions to cut the elevator, your instructions to label the shorter versions final. You were the technical editor. I included my replies. Marjorie reached toward the phone. Becca stepped back. No contact, no raised hand, only distance. You said I was cheap, Becca said. I said the production model was cost-effective. You said mouth, metaphorically. You said replaceable, in a private exhaustion state. You said I would absorb the editing questions. Because you did the edits, and you recorded the files. Marjorie's face hardened. Then perhaps the bank should hear that you knowingly manipulated elder care evidence. Becca nodded slowly. Good. Say it in the meeting. Marjorie looked toward me, waiting. The usual silent request. Translate. Soften. Explain what each person really meant. I closed the caption file after saving the legitimate corrections. Did not speak. At 8:37, we left the studio. Marjorie rode with Sonia. Becca took a separate car. I walked to the bus stop. Marion's foot pedal pulled against the bottom of my work bag. The bank was 4 stops away. My headphones remained clipped to my shirt, though I would not use them during the meeting. The bus arrived nearly empty. I sat beside the rear window. No payment notice. No grocery bag against my knee. No child's game. Only the engine vibration beneath the floor and the scheduled stop chime. Different bell. Different room. A sound could resemble another sound without becoming it. Context mattered. Repeated structure mattered. The record required more than recognition. At 8:52, the clinic's social worker sent another confirmation. Rosa had eaten. Provider remained present. No interruption. I saved it inside the care continuity folder. The bank lobby occupied the first floor of a glass office building. Fluorescent panels, white tile, plastic chairs fastened in groups of 3. A low laminate table holding 2 financial brochures and a dried water ring. The digital cue screen displayed B17. Marjorie sat beneath it with Sonia on one side. Her cream jacket lay smooth across her shoulders. No visible sign of the studio argument. Becca occupied a chair near the exterior doors. Her invoice folder rested on her lap. The doors remained unlocked. A customer entered. Another left. No one controlled Marjorie's movement. She stayed because the remaining reserve restriction could not be reconsidered without the appointment. An employee approached with a tablet. Marjorie stood immediately. Before the officer arrives, I would like to provide context about the emotional harm created by document-centered review. The employee asked for her appointment number. Marjorie gave it, then opened a Gentle Hours video on her phone. The thumbnail showed her beneath the custom fabric light fixture. Would it help to understand the work this account supports? The employee looked at the screen for less than a second. The review officer will receive any relevant submission. This video addresses financial dignity for elders. You can provide the link through the portal. Marjorie returned to her chair. Her mouth remained curved in a public smile. At 9:01, she touched my wrist. Restroom. Not a question. She led me down a short corridor beside the lobby. The restroom doors stood beyond a security camera and a vending alcove. No one followed. As soon as the lobby disappeared behind the corner, Marjorie's face broke. Her shoulders lowered. Breathing quickened. Mascara had gathered beneath her right eye, though I had not seen her cry. This is unbearable, she said. I waited. You have no idea what it costs to appear compassionate while people project resentment onto you. She took both my hands, pressed them between hers. Her palms were warm. Elise, tell me I am not a bad person. I did not answer quickly enough. Her fingers tightened. Tell me good people are sometimes misunderstood. Good people can be misunderstood. She exhaled. Again, good people can be misunderstood. I need you to mean it. You asked for the sentence. Her expression sharpened, then collapsed again. I cannot go in there looking attacked. She pointed beneath her eye. A dark line of mascara touched the upper cheek. I took a tissue from the restroom counter, wet one corner, removed the mark. Marjorie held still. The same posture she used before sponsor recordings. Chin slightly lifted, eyes lowered enough to imply vulnerability. I have carried your grandmother publicly for years, she said. Rosa is at home with a respite worker. You always move to logistics when I am trying to connect. The worker arrived. Do you see? This is what I mean. I folded the tissue. Black mascara inside white paper. Marjorie looked into the mirror, straightened the cream jacket, smoothed both sleeves. Do I look unstable? No. Do I look exhausted? Yes. Too exhausted? I don't know what the bank considers relevant. She gave me a wounded look, then placed both hands on my shoulders. I need you not to punish me in there. The bank controls the review. You control the atmosphere. No. You always have. Your silence makes people assume the worst. I looked at her reflection. For years, she had assigned me words when she needed warmth, and silence when she needed innocence. Now, even refusing to edit her explanation had become an act she wanted me to own. I will answer questions addressed to me, I said. That is not reassurance. It is what I can promise. Marjorie took one slow breath, then another, public rhythm returning. She checked the mascara line. Gone. Good people can be misunderstood, she said to her reflection. The sentence no longer needed me. She walked back toward the lobby. I washed the mascara from my finger, dried my hands, followed. Sonia looked up when Marjorie returned. Are you all right? Marjorie placed one hand over her chest. I am choosing regulation. Becca looked at me, then at the clean skin beneath Marjorie's eye. She understood the ritual. Maybe she had performed another version of it with video edits. At 9:11, the review officer entered through a door behind the teller area. Gray folder. Bank tablet. No visible reaction to Marjorie's video waiting on the screen. She introduced herself, confirmed the 2 connected case numbers. Then she led us into the glass-walled consultation room and stated the scope. The identity-based line under my name, the restricted withdrawals from Rosa's care reserve, the audio files used to support care activity, the shared folder activity export, direct statements concerning monthly payments and editing instructions. She confirmed that Rosa had authorized disclosure limited to the questioned care transactions. Each attendee consented to the joint review and could request separate questioning. No unrelated account information would be discussed. Marjorie leaned forward. I need to establish that this process has been shaped by a relative with professional access to audio manipulation. The officer opened the folder. We will review file chronology before discussing interpretation. Sonia clasped both hands around her coffee cup. Becca rested one hand on her printed messages. I placed my work bag beside the chair. Marion's foot pedal remained inside, heavy, unused. The officer confirmed that Rosa had completed a direct telephone interview and authorized continued essential care payments through the interim process. Marjorie interrupted. Rosa is vulnerable to suggestion. The authorization was witnessed through her clinic. Elise arranged that. The clinic documented Rosa's responses. Marjorie sat back. The officer turned to me. Do the file names displayed in this case match the originals you submitted? Yes. She opened the bank-preserved review copies on her tablet. My phone remained inside my coat. No edited samples. No enhanced tracks. Beside the audio window, she opened the bank upload audit and the shared folder activity export I had submitted. Upload dates, file sizes, reviewer downloads, replacement versions, all visible. Through the glass, the lobby doors opened. A customer entered carrying a deposit bag. The digital queue changed from B17 to B18. Ordinary banking continued outside the consultation room. Marjorie looked at the officer's tablet, then toward the Gentle Hours video on her own device. The officer said, "We will begin with the earliest file submitted as a bedside care update." I rested both hands in my lap, did not reach for Marion's pedal, did not explain the bell before anyone heard it. The officer touched the first file name. Marjorie's voice entered the consultation room through the bank's preserved review copy. Soft, measured. A little breath before Rosa's name. I'm sitting beside Rosa's bed now. She finished most of her soup, and we're having a quiet afternoon. Sonia lowered her coffee cup. Becca stared at the digital timer moving across the screen. I kept both hands in my lap. 3 seconds beneath Marjorie's sentence, the low mechanical tremor began. The freight elevator moving toward the studio corridor. Then the two-tone bell. The ventilation stopped. The last consonant in afternoon reached the concrete wall and returned. The officer did not look at me. She looked at the audio index. This file was labeled as a bedside care update? Yes, I said. One word. Marjorie leaned forward. The label identifies the care context, not a claim that every syllable was captured in a literal bedroom. The officer replayed the opening. No commentary. Tremor. Bell. Ventilation stop. Hard reflection. Marjorie touched the edge of her phone. Care documentation sometimes requires reconstruction to protect an elder's dignity. The officer looked at the case notes. The withdrawal descriptions state that recorded visits supported the need for ongoing care media expenses. They supported education around caregiving. Were you inside Roosevale's apartment when this recording was made? Marjorie paused. This question is more complicated than a location checkbox. The officer waited. Marjorie's voice softened. I was representing a visit that had occurred. That was not my question. Sonia looked toward her sister. Marjorie noticed. The recording communicates the emotional truth of the care session. The officer entered a note, then opened the second file. Marjorie's voice said Rosa was resting near the window. The freight elevator tremor began beneath the first sentence. Two-tone bell. Ventilation shutdown. The same concrete return. Third file. Different date. Different claim. Same room. Becca shifted in her plastic chair. The officer paused playback. Miss Navarro, did you alter these files before submitting them? No. Did you create enhanced copies? No. Did you isolate the background sounds? No. Did you rename the originals? No. She turned her tablet so the others could see the audit page. 6 rows. Original file names. File sizes. Shared project receipt times. Bank download times. Marjorie looked at the timestamps. Her expression remained composed. The muscles near her jaw did not. The officer selected the Monday file. Original size, 28 megabytes. Received by the shared editing address at 6:41 p.m. Review team download at 10:18 the following morning. She moved to the replacement. File using the same care title uploaded at 10:53. Size, 6 megabytes. Marjorie lifted one hand. The later file is the approved version. The review team had already downloaded the earlier version. The earlier material included production debris. The officer selected Thursday. Original downloaded at 10:20. Replacement uploaded at 10:54. Then evening. Original downloaded at 10:24. Replacement uploaded at 10:56. The order remained ordinary. No warning screen. No dramatic look. One file existed. A neutral reviewer downloaded it. A smaller file appeared later. Marjorie's explanation could not move the timestamps. She looked at me. You knew unfinished recordings would be misunderstood. I said nothing. Elise. The officer lifted her eyes from the tablet. Please direct your response to me. Marjorie turned back. My niece works with audio professionally. She understands that raw material is not intended to represent final meaning. The officer opened the transfer record from the tablet. The original files were already part of a shared editing workflow. Because Elise handled captions, the file names identified care updates. Creative teams used shorthand. The replacements removed sections containing the same commercial building sounds heard in the originals. Becca's fingers tightened around her invoice folder. Marjorie said, Becca made technical editing decisions. Becca looked at her. You gave me the cuts. I gave you production goals. You told me to start after the elevator. I told you to remove distracting noise. You told me to label them bedside updates. I described their intended care context. You recorded them in the studio. Marjorie's face turned toward her slowly. This is not the time for you to relieve yourself of professional responsibility. Becca opened her folder. The first page carried a printed message thread. I sent the bank the time codes. The officer checked her tablet. We received them at 8:26 this morning. Marjorie's hands folded together. I want it recorded that Becca had complete access to the editing system. Becca placed the first printout on the low table. Marjorie's message. Cut from 00 to after elevator. Second cut. Before air cycle. Use bedroom tone from Rosa phone note if needed. Becca's reply. That will make it sound like one continuous apartment recording. Marjorie. That is the point. Keep it calm. Sonia leaned forward. You added sound from Mother's apartment? Becca looked at her. Once. Which recording? The evening one. You made the studio sound like her home. I used 10 seconds of room tone because Marjorie said the elevator was distracting. You knew it was not recorded there. I knew she was summarizing a visit. Did she visit? Becca looked at Marjorie. The pause answered before she did. Marjorie moved quickly. This meeting cannot become a public dismantling of every imperfect caregiving choice. Sonia's voice rose. Did you visit Mother that evening? I spoke to her. From where? The studio. You said you sat beside her. I recreated the emotional continuity of the call. You said she finished soup. She told me what she ate. She told you? Marjorie's eyes moved toward me. She wanted the schedule, the meal note, the missing sentence I usually supplied. I remained still. Sonia saw her look. Why are you looking at Elise? Marjorie touched her own chest. Because Elise has turned silence into aggression. The officer returned to the audio index. We will continue. She opened the facility information sheet. Riverline Media and Storage. Freight elevator serving media corridor. Central ventilation. Concrete block interior construction. Then Rosa's property confirmation. No freight elevator. Carpeted halls. Radiator heat. No comparable central ventilation cycle inside the apartment. Marjorie shook her head. Many buildings have bells. The officer said, The location finding does not depend on a bell alone. She pointed to the comparison summary. Repeated mechanical sequence, same ventilation interval, same room reflection, matching Riverline environment, inconsistent apartment features, Riverline payments from the care reserve, studio project invoices for the same dates. The explanation lasted less than a minute. No acoustic spectacle. No one pretended a single sound contained an address. The room. The payments. The file timestamps. The labels. Each source met the next one. Marjorie reached for her Gentle Hours video. This is the work those expenses created. The officer did not look at the screen. The reserve was established for Rosa Vale's direct home care needs. The Resource Center expanded access to care information. Did Rosa authorize studio rent? She authorized me to manage sustainable care. Did she authorize conference production? Rosa does not understand media infrastructure. Did she authorize withdrawal of $31,600 for those expenses? Marjorie's expression became wounded. I need us to avoid infantilizing caregiving decisions because they do not fit narrow financial categories. The officer opened the transaction summary. Verified Home Care Service was unable to process a scheduled weekend block, while the reserve paid Riverline rent, furniture costs, and conference expenses. Elise covered the gap. I felt Sonia look at me. Marjorie continued. That demonstrates family resilience, the officer said. It demonstrates that the protected account did not pay the scheduled provider. Marjorie pressed 2 fingers against her throat. Her breathing accelerated. I am experiencing this line of questioning as punitive. The officer waited until she finished the sentence. Would you like a short pause? No. A pause will only extend the exposure. Then we will continue. Marjorie looked surprised. Her language had entered the room. It had not taken control of it. The officer opened the continuous studio recording. Miss Navarro's index identifies a relevant discussion beginning at 18 minutes and 42 seconds. The bank reviewed the complete file. We will play the surrounding section. Marjorie's hand moved toward the phone. Becca moved her own folder closer to her body. Sonia stared at the table. The recording began before the private discussion. A sponsor take. Marjorie speaking about caregiver dignity. A restart. Becca asking about lighting. The freight elevator. Then the voices moved away from public cadence. Becca's recorded voice asked about Sonia. Marjorie answered. She will do it again. Sonia will do anything if you imply she might be alone later. Sonia looked up. Marjorie spoke immediately. That was private caregiver processing. The officer did not stop playback. Becca's recorded voice. She was shaking before the live stream. Marjorie. That is why she is useful. Sonia's mouth opened. No sound came out. The file continued. Marjorie said Sonia was terrified enough to call dependents love. Promising future care would make her defend every transfer. The officer paused after the sentence finished. Sonia turned toward her sister. You knew. Marjorie pressed her fingertips harder against her throat. Knew what? That I was afraid. I have supported you through that fear. You used it. That is Elise's interpretation. Elise had said nothing. Sonia looked at me. Then back to Marjorie. She did not interpret your voice. Marjorie's breathing became louder. I was exhausted. Caregivers process dark thoughts in private so they can remain safe in public. You paid me from Mother's account. For availability. You said I was useful because I was afraid. I said the fear made you responsive to family needs. That is worse. No, it is more nuanced. Sonia gave a small laugh. The sound broke halfway through. Nuanced. Marjorie leaned toward her. Sonia, I need you not to abandon relational truth because a bank employee is playing a private conversation without therapeutic context. The officer said, This is not a therapeutic proceeding. Marjorie's eyes filled. I understand the institutional category. I am naming the human harm. Sonia looked at the transaction summary. $400. Marjorie said nothing. Every month. It helped with your groceries. You told me sponsors covered it. The funds supported the same mission. You told me Mother's reserve was untouched. I said her care remained protected. Her weekend aid was not paid. Elise handled it. Sonia turned toward me. How much did you pay? Only the emergency Saturday gap. Why didn't you tell me? I asked whether you were available. Sonia looked down. That answer had already been preserved inside her own silence. Becca leaned forward. You accused me of taking money while you took $400 every month. Sonia's face hardened. I did not alter recordings. You defended the person telling me to alter them. I did not know. You did not ask. Neither did you. I asked to be paid for editing. With Mother's reserve. I was paid from the media account. Funded by the reserve. I did not see the bank records. You heard the elevator. Becca looked toward the consultation room door. The exit remained open. She stayed. Leaving would not remove her messages from the review. "I thought Marjorie was recording summaries of real visits," she said. "You cut apartment room tone into one because she told me Rosa had been on the phone. You made it sound like you were protecting her dignity." "I was doing the work I was given." Sonia's voice sharpened. "That is what everyone says." Becca turned toward her. "You accepted money for being available and then went to sponsor events? I believed the network would protect all of us. You believed the promise you were paid to repeat." Sonia's hand tightened around the empty coffee cup. The lid collapsed slightly. Marjorie raised both palms. "This is what Elise wanted." I did not move. "She wanted us divided," Marjorie continued. "She has always resented being invisible." The officer looked at the case file. "Ms. Navarro opened the identity dispute after receiving a payment notice for a line she denies authorizing. She could have approached me privately. I did." Everyone looked at me. The first full sentence I had spoken in several minutes. Marjorie blinked. I continued only because the officer had turned toward me. I asked whether she opened the line. She declined to answer and described it as integrated care funding. The officer nodded. I returned my hands to my lap. Marjorie looked at Sonia. "You see how rehearsed she is?" Sonia said. "She asked you." "She attacked me with an account balance." "The account was under her name." "I thought she would manage the financial side." "Did she agree?" "She handled the forms." "That is not an answer." Marjorie's face tightened. The same question had moved from me to Sonia. No longer daughter against aunt. Sister against sister. The officer opened the next section of the continuous recording. Becca's recorded voice said she kept raw copies because Marjorie changed instructions. Then Marjorie explained what would happen if the review became serious. Becca would absorb the editing questions. Elise would process the paperwork. Sonia would defend the family. The officer let the full sequence play. No extracted insult. No isolated phrase. The whole private distribution of responsibility. Marjorie speaking calmly while assigning each person a future role. The audio reached, "Becca is a cheap mouth with editing software. That makes her replaceable." Becca's face became still, not shocked. "Confirmed." Marjorie spoke over the playback. "That phrase did not refer to her worth as a person." Becca did not look at her. "What did it refer to?" "A production arrangement." "You said mouth." "You communicate." "Cheap." "You were affordable." "Replaceable." "All contractors are replaceable at the role level." "You said you would put the edits on me." "Because you performed them under your directions." "You retained technical discretion." Becca opened another message. "I asked whether cutting the elevator would misrepresent the location." She slid the page toward the officer. Marjorie's reply. "The bank will never hear raw room sound. Do the clean version." The officer read it, then entered a note. Marjorie's breathing quickened again. Her fingers pressed against her throat. "This has become an emotionally abusive ambush." The officer stopped typing. "Do you require medical assistance?" "No. I require psychological safety." "We can pause the appointment." "If I leave, you will maintain the restrictions." "Yes." "That is coercive." "It is the current account status." "You are forcing a caregiver to remain inside a destabilizing environment. You may leave at any time." Marjorie looked toward the glass door. Then, at the review folder, she stayed. The officer continued. "The bank is not making a final determination today concerning every transaction or the personal credit line. Current restrictions remain while application source, authorization, and care fund use are reviewed." Marjorie shook her head. "You are preserving Elise's punishment." "You are preserving the account and evidence status. The files are creative material. They were used in support of care activity and financial representations by Becca." Becca turned toward her. "Say it clearly." Marjorie looked at the officer. "Becca controlled the edits." "Did she control the recording location?" "No." Did she control the file names? She managed media. Did she control the reserve transfers? No. Did she submit Elise Navarro's identifying information for the personal line? Marjorie's lips parted. The pause extended. Real. Unedited. The officer waited. I delegated financial administration. To whom? Elise was expected to assume that function. Did she authorize the application? She had already provided the identifying material through caregiver forms. That was not my question. Marjorie looked at me. My silence no longer offered a surface she could write on. No signed borrower authorization has been produced, the officer said. The application used a Gentle Hours email and media telephone number. Ms. Navarro denies ownership and control of the organization. The line remains disputed. Sonia whispered, "You used her forms," Marjorie answered without turning. The information was already within the family care system. Mother's care forms for an integrated initiative. Did Elise know? She knew Gentle Hours needed administrative support. That is not knowing. Marjorie's voice rose. I have spent years carrying the emotional weight none of you would touch. Sonia looked at the transaction summary. You paid yourself with Mother's safety. I created a platform for yourself. For caregivers. Then why is her account empty enough to reject care? Temporarily constrained. Because of the studio. Because growth requires investment. Becca picked up the payment records. And if it failed, I was the editor who acted alone. I never said alone. You said I would absorb the questions. Because you understood the software. You understood the room. Marjorie turned toward me again. Elise, say something. I did not. Tell them I cared for Rosa. No response. You have recordings of me discussing meals, medications, and appointments. The officer said, the review concerns whether those recordings accurately represented completed care visits and whether the account expenses were authorized. Marjorie ignored her. Elise, you know how much work I did. I had spent years cleaning the spaces between Marjorie's statements, removing the breath where irritation entered, tightening the pause before contempt became audible, correcting captions so the public voice appeared complete. Now the consultation room held the original room. No edit required. Marjorie leaned closer. Your silence is cruel. I gave the officer the final timestamp listed in my index. She selected it in the preserved review copy. Marjorie's own voice filled the consultation room. If the account review becomes serious, Sonia will defend the family. Becca will absorb the editing questions. Elise will process the paperwork required to resolve it. The recording continued. Marjorie laughed. A small, satisfied sound. Then, they all need something from me. That is why none of them will leave. The officer stopped the playback after the relevant segment. No commentary. Sonia stood. Her chair moved backward across the consultation room floor. Through the glass, a bank employee at the teller counter glanced toward us, then returned to work. Sonia did not leave. She stood beside the plastic chair. You thought I would stay because I am afraid. Marjorie pressed one hand to her chest. You are proving how unsafe private honesty has become. You thought Becca would take the blame. She performed the edits. You thought Elise would fix the account. She understands forms. You thought Mother would lose care and we would all protect you. I protected Mother's future with her money for a care network. Where is the network? Marjorie gestured toward her Gentle Hours phone screen. Sonia looked at it. A channel. Clinics shared it. A channel. Families depended on it. Mother depended on an aid you did not pay. The words remained between them. Becca closed her invoice folder. I am withdrawing every final file I can legally withdraw from sponsor use. Marjorie looked at her. You cannot damage the archive because your feelings are hurt. I am sending the original direction messages to every client who asks whether I created the false locations. You will destroy your own editing business. You plan to do that for me. I planned accountability. No, you planned a fall person. The review officer lifted one hand. Questions concerning sponsor relationships are outside today's scope. Becca sat back. Marjorie remained upright. Cream jacket still smooth. Mascara clean beneath the eye. Public image intact at the surface. The officers summarized the interim decisions. Rosa's remaining care funds would remain unavailable to Marjorie for discretionary withdrawals. Verified essential care invoices could continue through the temporary review channel. The bank would complete its review of the $31,600 already transferred. Application sources for the $39,800 line. Borrower authorization. Payment destinations. Bank upload chronology. Shared folder activity. Care support representations. An independent local administrator would be considered for Rosa's account if the review supported continued separation. No final recovery amount today. No final debt removal today. No immediate declaration that every expense was unauthorized. Marjorie interrupted. You are punishing Rosa by removing the person who understands her care story. Rosa requested independent review. She was influenced. The bank interviewed her directly. Elise arranged the interview. The clinic witnessed her authorization. Institutions do not understand family. The officer closed the gray folder. They understand account authority. Marjorie's mouth tightened. The officer turned toward me. The original files are preserved within the review workspace. Your identity dispute remains active. Do not represent the line as removed until written determination is issued. Understand. Do you have any additional statement? I looked through the glass at the digital queue. B23. My bus app showed 12 minutes until the next departure. Marjorie began. Elise, before you leave, we need to repair the emotional harm created by what just happened. I stood. My phone remained inside my coat. Lifted my work bag. Marion's foot pedal pulled against the strap. Marjorie rose too. You cannot walk away while your mother is in this state. Sonia remained standing beside the collapsed coffee cup. She did not ask me to stay. Marjorie continued. You created this rupture. Becca looked toward the consultation room door. The officer began organizing her documents. Marjorie touched the edge of the table. Elise, I need you to help everyone understand that private words spoken under exhaustion do not define a caregiver. I looked at her. The original recordings are already preserved. Rosa's account is restricted from you, and my bus leaves in 12 minutes, so I am going home instead of helping you rename what happened. No one followed me through the consultation room door. Outside, the muted financial literacy video changed to a segment about automatic savings. A customer entered carrying a child. The teller called the next number. The bank continued functioning. Outside, the bus stop stood half a block away. My hands did not shake. Behind the glass consultation room wall, Marjorie had already turned toward the review officer, one hand near her throat, the other raised in explanation. Sonia stood apart from her. Becca was photographing one of the message pages before returning it to the folder. The bus appeared at the intersection. I reached the stop before the doors opened. The bus doors closed behind me before Marjorie reached the lobby glass. I saw her reflection only because the window caught the fluorescent lights. Cream jacket. One hand raised. Mouth moving. The bus pulled forward before I could tell whether she was speaking to me, the review officer, or the version of the room she still believed she could edit. I sat near the rear door. Every seat was not occupied this time. No grocery bag pressed against my knee. No child's game repeated electronic notes behind my head. The heater remained off. Marion's foot pedal rested inside my work bag, heavy against my shoes whenever the bus turned. My phone displayed 3 unread messages. Marjorie, Sonia, Becca. I opened none of them. The bank's secure portal showed only the interim status the officer had already stated. Original files preserved. Identity review active. Care reserve restricted to verified essential services. No final removal. No restored money. No instant correction because one meeting had gone badly for Marjorie. The bank needed records that existed outside the consultation room. Application source history, authentication attempts, contact channels, payment destinations, caregiver form access, audio file chronology. Rosa still needed breakfast the next morning while those systems moved. At my stop, I carried the pedal upstairs and placed it beneath my desk. The black binder clip remained attached to my shirt. When I removed it, the rectangular pressure mark appeared darker than it had that morning. I set the clip beside Marion's pedal, then called Rosa. The respite worker answered. Rosa had eaten lunch, complained about the soup temperature, taken her medication, rested for 20 minutes. The worker had submitted the verified invoice through the bank's interim channel. Ordinary care continued. That was the first result that mattered. Rosa came to the phone. Well? The remaining reserve is restricted from Marjorie while the bank reviews it. Can the aid still come? Yes. Verified care can be paid through the temporary process. What about your account? Still under review. Did Sonia hear the recording? Yes. Did she cry? Yes. Rosa clicked her tongue. She cries before she decides what a thing means. I did not ask how often Marjorie had used that. Do you need anything tonight? Milk. I'll add it to the delivery. You do not have to pay. The grocery order is still active. Good. She paused. Then said, Marjorie told me gentle hours helped thousands of people. It may have helped some people. Did it help me? I looked at the care calendar. The failed weekend payment. The studio withdrawals. The respite workers confirmed service window. Not enough. Rosa accepted that answer without asking me to make it kinder. The identity review took 9 business days. On the second day, the bank released part of the application history to me through the dispute portal. The application had been submitted through an internet address used by Gentle Hours. The verification email went to the project editing account. The telephone confirmation went to Marjorie's media number. The application listed me as financial administrator, but no login from my devices completed the borrower authentication step. The identifying details matched an old caregiver authorization form. Full legal name, previous address, date of birth, a shortened employment description. The form had been stored inside the Gentle Hours Care Planning folder because Marjorie once claimed sponsors needed proof that the family had administrative support. The bank asked whether I had knowingly provided the form for borrowing purposes. No. Whether I had received any benefit from the line. No. Whether I had authorized Marjorie, Sonia, or Becca to apply. No. Whether I had controlled the media phone number. No. The answers remained short because the records already carried the chronology. The $39,800 had entered a project account connected to Gentle Hours. Payments left that account for studio equipment, conference production, storage fees, camera purchases, promotional services. None entered my personal account. None paid my rent. None purchased my headphones. The first payment notice had reached me only because the line entered its billing cycle under my identity. On the 4th day, Marjorie filed a complaint saying my transcription employment gave me the ability to alter the recordings. The bank compared the shared folder activity export and its own upload audit. Original file receipt, original size, reviewer download, later replacement upload, later removal from active shared view. The review copies had entered the bank's workspace before Marjorie uploaded the shorter files or removed the originals from collaborators' view. My listening notes could have been wrong. My interpretation could have been challenged. The chronology could not become later because she disliked what the originals contained. The bank also compared the versions I submitted with the copies downloaded by its reviewers. Same file names, same sizes, same original timestamps. No evidence that I altered the files before review. The complaint did not disappear. It was answered through ordinary file history. On the 9th business day, I was standing inside another evening bus when the final identity notice arrived. The aisle was crowded. A man held a folded stroller beside me. Someone's umbrella dripped near my shoe. I was holding the overhead strap with the same hand that had carried the rubber pattern on the first bus ride after the payment notice. The phone vibrated. Identity dispute determination. I opened the notice. The bank had found no authenticated borrower authorization from me. The application had used information taken from caregiver records and contact channels controlled by Gentle Hours. The personal line would be removed from my identity. The balance would not be treated as my debt. The payment history would be corrected through the institution's ordinary reporting process. I read the notice twice. The bus stopped at a red light. I did not count the interval. My hand remained loose around the strap. No pattern entered my palm. No sound came out of me. The relief was not dramatic enough for the people nearby to notice. The debt simply stopped belonging to my name. The review of Rosa's reserve lasted longer. The bank confirmed that $31,600 had moved into expenses Marjorie classified as care infrastructure. Some payments had supported materials that could be sold. Some had paid services already consumed. Studio rent could not be returned after months of occupancy. Conference printing had already happened. Furniture still existed. Camera equipment still existed. The security deposit remained partly refundable. 2 sponsor invoices had not yet been paid to Gentle Hours. The bank did not make the full amount reappear. It removed Marjorie's authority to initiate further discretionary withdrawals. An independent local administrator accepted control of the remaining reserve. Rosa signed the appointment after a clinic social worker read the terms aloud. The administrator could pay verified home care invoices, transportation, medication assistance, emergency respite, approved apartment safety costs. Marjorie could submit information. She could not transfer money. Sonia could request reimbursement with documentation. She could not receive another automatic $400 for being available. I could communicate about care continuity. I could not withdraw funds or become Rosa's financial owner. The structure no longer depended on whichever daughter spoke with the most confidence. After tracing the personal line proceeds to the Gentle Hours project account and the questioned reserve withdrawals to expenses Marjorie controlled, the bank's recovery department sent a written demand to Gentle Hours and to Marjorie as its controlling account manager. Marjorie entered a civil repayment agreement. Recovery began in pieces. Riverline returned part of the studio security deposit after deducting cleaning and lease ending costs. The custom furniture was sold. Camera equipment went through an ordinary resale service. A conference vendor refunded the portion of the event that had not yet occurred. 2 sponsor receivables were redirected under that agreement. The returned amounts went to Rosa's administered care fund. Not to me, not to Sonia, not to a new family account. The remaining shortfall entered a repayment schedule tied to Marjorie's documented income. Rosa's care did not wait for the last dollar. The independent administrator began paying the provider before the recovery process finished. Saturday hours, Sunday respite, transportation, medication reminders. Care became a schedule again instead of a promise attached to a public channel. Sonia stopped receiving the monthly transfers. For 2 weeks, she called me almost every night. Sometimes she wanted to discuss the recording. Sometimes she wanted to explain why she accepted the money. Sometimes she wanted me to confirm that Marjorie had manipulated her more than she had cooperated. I did not calculate the percentage for her. One evening she said, "She knew I was afraid of being alone." Yes. You could sound angrier for me. The recording is clear. I believed the network would be there when I needed it. You can still make a care plan without family, with people who agree to be part of it. That sounds transactional. Care has schedules, costs, and consent. You learn to talk like a bank. No, I learned not to promise another person's labor. Sonia was quiet, then said, "I am your mother." I know. She had used the sentence for years as the beginning of an obligation. This time, I let it remain a fact. Nothing added after it. Sonia later gave the administrator the payment records she had kept. She admitted the $400 had been described as sponsor-funded family coordination. The bank had already identified the true source. Her statement did not erase receipt. It clarified what Marjorie told her. The Caregiver Advisory Circle removed Sonia from its planning group after members learned she had publicly defended gentle hours while accepting reserve money. The consequence lasted one sentence in the notice they sent her. The longer consequence was private. She could no longer treat Marjorie's future care promise as evidence that she would be safe. Becca sent her complete editing directions to the bank and to the sponsors who requested them. She admitted inserting 10 seconds of Rose's apartment room tone into one studio recording. She said she believed Marjorie was reconstructing genuine visits. The messages showed that she also knew the final files were intended to conceal the studio environment. Both things remained true. Several clients ended their editing contracts. One retained her for unrelated product work after requiring written source files and approval history. For a while, she transcribed product return calls for a discount retailer. She once sent me a message. Now I understand why missing one word changes the whole return. I did not reply. The work had always mattered. Her contempt had not made it invisible. Gentle hours disappeared slowly. A clinic removed the referral link. Then another. The Community Foundation withdrew the speaking invitation. 2 sponsors paused their agreements while reviewing the bank materials. The channel remained online for several weeks, but new videos stopped appearing. Older clips circulated mostly through critical reposts, comparing Marjorie's public language to the audio from the review. No large crowd arrived at her door. No endless public campaign. The authority attached to the name simply weakened. Riverline removed the Gentle Hours lettering from the studio door after the lease ended. The letters left a pale rectangle in the paint. The custom fabric fixture sold with the furniture. The wall beneath it looked ordinary without the warm circle of light. Marjorie took a customer retention job 4 months later. I learned that through Sonia, not because I checked. Her supervisor was 26. During one team call, the supervisor smiled and praised transparency before reading Marjorie's missed retention numbers aloud. She asked whether Marjorie felt emotionally prepared to meet baseline expectations. Marjorie said the feedback style created an unsafe communication dynamic. The supervisor directed her to the standard performance form and moved to the next employee. I did not celebrate it. A false warm voice remained false whether Marjorie used it or received it. The point was not that she had fallen into lesser work. The point was that her language no longer controlled the procedure around her. My work changed in smaller ways. I ended the unpaid Gentle Hours editing arrangement in writing. 1 paragraph. I would not review, caption, organize, preserve, or distribute future Gentle Hours material. Any questions concerning the identity dispute, reserve recovery, or prior files had to go through the bank review channel or the administrator. Marjorie responded with 12 paragraphs about abandonment. I forwarded the message into the existing correspondence file. Did not edit it. Did not make it shorter. My employer replaced the failing headphones after I disclosed that the left channel was affecting quality control. I had delayed asking because I assumed personal equipment problems belonged to me. The company equipment policy said otherwise. The new pair was not expensive beyond function. Balanced sound. Replaceable cable. Proper isolation. No binder clip. The first full shift I wore them, the skin beneath my collarbone remained unmarked. 3 weeks after the reserve administrator began paying Rosa's provider, an envelope arrived at my apartment. Cream paper. My name, handwritten across the front. Beneath it, private. Please read. Marjorie's return address appeared in the corner. I carried it upstairs, unopened. Placed it beside the blank notebook from my certification ceremony. The paper was thick enough that the first line might have become visible beneath a lamp. I did not hold it up. Did not press the envelope. Did not search for whether the letter began with sorry, context, healing, or family. I did not need Marjorie to admit the recordings were false. I did not need Sonia to rename fear or Becca to apologize for making invisible work into a joke. Their version could remain unfinished without me. My identity, labor, and silence were no longer editing resources, and I would not become the missing sentence that made their account coherent. I wrote across the envelope, "Return to sender," unopened. The next morning, I placed it in the outgoing mail tray near Jerome's mop sink. He glanced at the handwriting, then at me. "Wrong address, wrong reader," he nodded. The old radio played a weather report. No advice. No request to know what the letter contained. The envelope left the building with the ordinary mail collection. Rosa remained in her apartment. The independent administrator sent monthly summaries in large print. Provider hours, transportation, medication support, reserve balance, recovered amounts, expected expenses. Rosa kept the pages in a blue folder beside her kitchen table. When Marjorie asked to visit, Rosa allowed short visits with the aide present. Sometimes she said yes, sometimes no. The choice no longer came attached to a threat about losing the apartment. Sonia began meeting with the clinic's social worker to create her own future care plan. Insurance benefits, savings, local programs, people she could ask instead of people she intended to assume. She did not enjoy the process. It produced no public gratitude, only names, numbers, and consent. That was probably why it had a chance to survive. One evening, the Independent Respite Program emailed me a routine funding request. Another caregiver had exhausted her approved hours while caring for an older neighbor after a hospital discharge. She needed 4 emergency hours to attend her own medical appointment and sleep before the next overnight shift. The program accepted anonymous contributions. I read the provider schedule. Verified service window. Named agency. Direct payment. No public profile. No sponsor video. No photograph of the exhausted caregiver. I paid for the 4 hours. The confirmation showed only respite block funded. The caregiver would not receive my name. I would not receive her gratitude. Care would arrive anyway. At work the following morning, Marion's foot pedal rested beneath my desk. The new headphones covered both ears evenly. A legal proceeding played through them. One attorney asked a witness a question. The witness paused. A ventilation fan entered the silence. Someone shifted papers near the microphone. The rough transcript had removed the pause. I moved backward with the pedal. Listened again. The witness had not answered immediately. That delay belonged to the record. I restored it. No interpretation. No improvement. Just the space the speaker had actually left. Then I continued.